Okay, so it looks like we are live. So welcome to today's segment where we'll talk a little bit about praying according to Martinez. Just to recap a little bit from uh, Thursday's session, we talked about the eternal cosmic organic connection between God and the Son of God, 1 and 2. And basically that at the center we have X1, our eternal I, the stillness where we are one with God, and then we see this connection between us, Son of God, and God Source. There is this connection there, and that can be strengthened with the use of prayer. So today I'll leave it at this symbol right now, and of course you're welcome to always chat in with questions, and I'll try to answer them if I can. So to Martinez, prayer was a natural practice for him. Even as a child, he used prayer. He said that he could never remember one day where he didn't use prayer in his daily life, going through his daily things that he was doing. So and he said that he couldn't understand how people could go through their life, how they could dare or had the courage not to use prayer. So he felt really strongly about this praying, and he wrote a whole little book about it called The Mystery of Prayer. And from that book, he basically explains his take on what prayer is and why it works. And then he comes in about chapter 10. He talks about the Lord's Prayer and the 9 what he calls thought concentrations of the Lord's Prayer, and he goes into details explaining what these thought concentrations mean. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Lord's Prayer, but it's the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but free us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever and ever. So that is 9 thought concentrations. So he takes each thought concentration and uses a chapter or more or less to explain what does this thought concentration mean. For example, our Father who art in heaven. What does that mean? So in chapter 10, he goes on to explain, well, our Father who art in heaven, that is X1, right? So that is the white again. The X1, our eternal I, the stillness, the fixed point, the nameless, formless life center that we are, and where we are one with God. And he uses a couple of pages on that and goes on to the next thought concentration. And it's really a great book to read, because you come behind. Martinez takes us behind the wording of these 9 thought concentrations, and it's really worth it. I mean, I was raised atheist, and whenever we had where you go to the to get confirmation, I opted for I mean, there was a choice. You could go to school at 10 or go to 8 down to the church and learn about the religious stuff. So I said, oh well, I don't care about that God stuff. We live once and that's it. And I was an atheist basically in my teens. So I never got to read anything in the Bible or I never used prayer or anything like that. So, and I remember when I first started reading the Third Testament, and I got to the word God, and I was like, oh, I kind of got a rash, and it's like allergic to that. And I kept reading. I was like, God, there's too much God in this thing, because I was like, I used the natural sciences when I was a teenager and studying in school and stuff. So being a devout atheist, of course, when you read something and it has the word God in it, it's kind of like, ugh, you don't want to read anymore. So that was my challenge at that time. So I wasn't ready to reading it. But now I understand that God is basically just our eternal I. It is who we truly are. At the very core of our being, we are at one with God. So if you don't like the word God, you can use different name. It basically doesn't have a name. So that's why Martinus used the nameless variable x1 to denote this nameless eternal I that we are. So, yes, I urge you to read the book, The Mystery of Prayer. It's a really good read, and it really goes into detail about the wording and what behind the wording. And I'm convinced that you will be surprised on reading Martinus' take on the Lord's Prayer and what do they actually mean, these 9 thought concentrations. He wrote another little book, or maybe it was a lecture that was transcribed, but it's called Meditation. And in that, he also takes these 9 thought concentrations and explains them, not as thoroughly as the Mystery of Prayer, but it's still down the same alley. What he does in the meditation is he basically states that the only safe form of meditation is praying praying to God. And then as a start, you can always start with the Lord's Prayer, and then it kind of develops to a more or less personal conversation with God's source. And that's, of course, on the internal. You're not talking to God externally, you're talking to God inside yourself in your thoughts. And that's the thing about, you go to a room, you lock your door, and you sit down and pray. And that's a symbol of that it's something that it happens inside yourself. So in this book, Meditation, he explains these 9 thought concentrations as a good way to meditate, or it's a safe way to meditate. And then he goes on to explain there's a lot of artificial or unnatural ways to meditate and use techniques of consciousness to reach certain states that we're not ready for, because we have all these lack of moral development. So it takes a lot of moral development, a high state of morals to be have access to higher states of consciousness. And that's why if we artificially try to break through these higher states without developing our moral code, we can more or less short circuit our consciousness, and it can be very hard for our nervous system to try to do that. So that's why he explains that a safe way to use meditation is by concentrating your thoughts on these 9 thought concentrations, these considerations of the 9 considerations of the Lord's Prayer. So I think I'll leave it with that, unless there are any questions. I don't see anybody typing anything in. So of course you always welcome to email your questions, and I'll try to take them up at the next live stream. And the next live stream is a week from now, Saturday, again at 5 p.m. Denmark time. So today was a little earlier because I have to do something now. But I'll set up a new countdown for the next live stream, and I hope to see you soon on the live stream with questions. And thank you for your attention today, and I'll see you soon.